Okay, kids, it's time for another episode of the Fueled by Weird podcast, the only podcast taking place live at Idaho Falls Retro X2. I'm your host, Chris Daly, and today I have the pleasure of chatting with all of you. Let's give a round of applause for yourselves. Okay, so usually with my show, I like to start out with an icebreaker question. So my icebreaker question for you guys today is, what is the one thing you're most excited to do today at Retro X? What's the one thing you're most excited to do? Is it maybe meet with the princesses?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that a good one?
Yeah.
I think so too. Gentlemen, what are you most excited for?
I'm just here to see all the people and see all the fun costumes and, enjoy the environment.
Right on. What about you?
Yeah. I'm a theater person, so coming and seeing all the costuming and all that is really fun.
Very cool. All right, what about you guys? What are you most excited about the con today?
I don't know. Her parents are making us come here. The
Oh,
samples.
there you go. Sir, what about you?
Going and getting a tattoo, then going and checking out all the other comic books, especially downstairs, all the old comic books. It's one of the main reasons why I like to come over here.
Heck yeah. All right, so another thing about the show is with Fueled by Weird, the concept of the show is, the kind of things you're into, your hobbies, your interests, that kind of stuff is what makes you who you are and what fuels your weird. So we're going to go through you guys again real quick. What are the kind of things that you're into? What's name one of your hobbies?
I said theater. I'm in Pokemon right now. We play competitive Pokemon together, so
That's awesome. What about you?
We do theater, we do competitive Pokemon, big gamer, like pretty standard nerd stuff.
Right on, that's cool. Theater's always fun. I have a hard time talking in front of people, so I'm very envious of you guys. That's awesome. Sir, what about you?
Lots of things. I going to the Death Club concert.
Yeah.
And that was very weird enough, especially for my girlfriend. And
Yeah, I bet.
And just coming over here, listening to other podcasts, listening to just some weird type stuff, and I just love it all. It's great.
Very cool. All right, so I have a question for you guys. How many of you listen to podcasts? Now, any of you guys have a favorite podcast? Sometimes it's hard. There's a lot of them out there. So have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? Yeah? Well, you came to the right place. So the biggest thing with having a podcast is, or I guess one of the most important things is you need to have an idea. Now, you can't let the jabronis in your brain make you think that your idea is not good. Because there's a lot of shows out there that already may exist, or they might already have some kind of a concept that's very similar to the one that you have, but that's okay. Go ahead and do it anyway, because no one can do that idea like you. So for example, if you have an interview show where you interview, let's say, competitive Pokemon players, there might be a whole bunch of podcasts out there already about Pokemon, but no one's going to do that show like you guys would do that show. So don't be afraid to do whatever you want to do your own thing. Second step, you got to come up with a name for your show. Make sure when you come up with a name for your show, you check out Google. Because I can't tell you, I've been a podcaster for like 12 years, and I can't tell you with all the different times that I've tried to come up with the name of a show, someone else already came up with the name of it first. It's very discouraging, but it's okay. Don't get discouraged, because you just want to make sure that you try to get an idea that is unique, and if it's already in existence, it's okay, because you can check and see if someone's already taken the name but it's not very active. I think you're probably okay, but just try to make sure you find a name that's not being used. That way when someone tries to look you up, it'll be easier to find you. Step 3, now that you've got your idea and your name down, step 2, once you come up with the name of your idea, you want to make sure you lock down social medias, lock down emails. That way you're all set for everything you need to be set for. So now step 3 is the logo. This is a good chance to get your artistic friends, see if they'll help you make a logo for your podcast. There's lots of freeware out there, websites that you can put together a logo for your show. It doesn't have to be anything super fancy. It just have to be something that'll get you started. Step 4 is make a list of your show topics. So now that you've got the idea for your show, you want to try to kind of list out some things you want to talk about in each episode. Maybe if you want to do an interview show, come up with people you want to talk to, ideas you've had to keep in mind to help you keep inspired and motivated. That way, when you get to a point where you want to do your show and you just start feeling it that day or whatever, if you have some really fun ideas that'll keep you going, that'll help. Step 5 is make sure when you go to do your episode, make sure you have notes and make sure you do your research. So like if you're going to interview someone, you should kind of do a little bit of background, kind of what they do, get kind of familiar with some of the stuff they're doing. If you're going to interview a creator, see if you can read some of their stuff, or maybe, listen to music, just if the person you're interviewing is a musician or whatever. Just try to make sure you go into your interview or go into your show with some notes. That way you're not just kind of just spitballing off the top of your head. Step 6, now that you've got your show ideas, you've got your logo, you've got the name of your show, it's time to record. Now, don't worry about if you don't have fancy gear or anything like that. A lot of people get scared because they think to be a podcaster you need to have a lot of fancy, expensive equipment, which you don't necessarily need. If you're a gamer, like you guys mentioned, you're gamers. If you have a gaming headset with a microphone, my very first podcast, that's how I did mine, is just with my gamer headset. You can also you can go to like Walmart and get like a cheap headset with a microphone. A lot of laptops come with microphones built in, and that's good enough for what you're doing just to get started. Skype or Zoom is good for interviews. So if you're going to interview somebody, Skype and Zoom are free options that'll, once the call's over, it'll generate a file on your computer that you can use to edit later. Lost my spot. There we go. Okay. Also, if you're just going to do it by yourself, there's free applications like Audacity. You can just download to your computer and you can record yourself talking. So either way you do it, you're going to be covered. Step 7, it's time for editing. Now I'm going to refer back to Audacity because Audacity is a free application you can get on your computer where you can edit your audio, or if you do a video podcast with a camera, there's free applications like Clipchamp for Windows. That's the one I use to edit my show. It's really easy. You just pop your video in and you can figure out how to edit it from there. And if you don't know how to audio edit or video edit and you don't have someone to do it for you, Google can be your friend, so can YouTube. I wanted to podcast, but I didn't have anyone to edit the show for me. So I just spent some time on YouTube, and YouTube is super helpful. I mean, I'm not the best editor, but I learned enough that I can edit my own show, and it's really helpful. Step 8 is music. There's a lot of sites out there that you can get a theme song for your show. They've got a few guidelines that you can use their music for free as long as you credit them in the show notes of your show. There's some songs, like I know there's a certain podcast that you pay like $5 and you can get their music and you can use it whenever you want. But there's a lot of sites you can just get music for free. You just download it and you can put it in your podcast. Step 9 is to upload and publish. Now that you've got your whole show done, you're ready to go, you're ready to share with the world. There's lots of sites that have all different sorts of benefits. There's free ones like Spotify for podcasters. It used to be called Anchor. If you sign up for that, it'll walk you through the entire process. It's really easy, very handy. You just upload your show in, you name it, you tell it what you want it to say, and then you're good to go. Also, if you want to publish a video podcast of your show, when you go back and you lock down that email or the social medias for Gmail, if you have a Gmail account, you automatically have a YouTube account, so you can just upload right to YouTube. Step 10 is spread the word. Now that you've got your show recorded, it's up on the internet, it's ready for people to listen to. Make sure you spread the word. Tell your friends, get on social media, spread the word of where your show is, what it's called, what it's about, where they can find you, and let everybody know. And most importantly is to get started. Don't worry about being perfect, because you won't be at first. You can't get better if you don't ever start. Don't worry about not having expensive gear, and make sure you have fun. You want to make sure you have a topic that you really enjoy that's going to make it fun for you to go and do your podcast. So the site I write for, and the site I contribute my podcast to, is called geek-network.com. It's part of what's called the Geek Network Podcast Syndicate. There's a bunch of other great podcasts in there, so make sure you go and check them out. Our parent company is Metal Ninja Studios. You can check them out at metalninjastudios.com. They're your one-stop shop for making comic books. So if you're wanting to make a comic book, you can go check them out, and they can help you get started. You can check us out on Geeks AZ on Twitter and Instagram, Geek Network on Facebook. I'm at Fueled by Weird on Instagram and Facebook. And the music for my show is by the band Polygon Horizon. They're a great band. They hooked me up with an incredible song. So make sure if you subscribe to my show, check it out. It's the song I use at the beginning and the end. The logos for my show are done by my friends Chris Chandler and Mike Belcher. You can find them on Instagram and Twitter. And if you like the show, please leave a review and tell your friends, because word of mouth is our friend. And remember, kids, to embrace the things that fuel your weird, and always geek responsibly. All right, now we're going to open it up for questions. Anybody have any questions? Go ahead.
One right here. So we already have a podcast right now. And
Okay.
We're trying to grow it right now. We're trying to figure out how we develop our own niche and how we bring that personality into it that separates it from the other ones in the same genre and topic. So how did you give your own podcast its own personality and stuff?
So for my podcast, usually what I do, when I get into a new fandom, like a new book series, a new TV show, something like that, I kind of like to know the why behind stuff. So I'll kind of, jump on the internet, jump on Wikipedia, I'll jump in and kind of just learn everything there is to know about the show. And that's kind of like with my show, I like to go and do a deep dive. I kind of want to know, like if I was going to interview you guys, I'd like to know what fuels your weird, what kind of things are you into? And then I would ask, what was it about Pokemon that got you into Pokemon? So I want to basically what I do is I kind of try to be personable. I want to hear your story. I want to know why you're into the things you are. I want you just to talk to me about that kind of stuff. Does that make me stand out? Not necessarily. There's probably a lot of other people that do that. But really, it's what it is, it's you that brings it out. Because like I said before, no one can really do the show like you guys do. So as long as you kind of just be true to yourselves, as long as you kind of just do your thing, then I think that'll help. Anybody else have any questions? Right there.
What made you want to start a podcast?
What made me want to start a podcast? Well, I like talking to people. Like I said to these guys, I like to know what it is, how you got into your thing. I just kind of want to know the story behind your why. I want to know your why. I want to know why you're into your thing. I want you to kind of tell me, if it's a fandom I don't necessarily know that much about, like Pokemon. I don't know very much about Pokemon, but I like to learn new stuff about people, like to know what they're into. So yeah, I just like talking to people. With Geek Network, I've had a very fortunate opportunity to talk to some pretty big name people. I've talked to Kevin Smith once before. It was pretty awesome. I've talked to the lead singer of Coheed and Cambria. That was pretty awesome. Like was mentioned before, Death Clock. Metalocalypse, I've talked to the singer of that band twice now. I've talked, for horror fans, I've talked to Tyler Main. He was Michael Myers in Rob Zombie's Halloween movies, 1 and 2. Thank you. And I've got a chance to talk to some really great creators. So it's been a really fun opportunity. There's lots of really cool people out there that want to get their story out. They just don't have the resources to get their story out. So I like to try to provide a platform for those kind of people. Okay, you had a question in the back.
Yeah, could you tell us about your Fueled by Weird podcast?
Something about it?
So could you just tell us basically what it's about?
Yeah, so basically the Fueled by Weird podcast is a podcast that I'll talk to people where, I'll want to know. Usually they'll come on, they'll talk about something they're doing. Like I've talked to a lot of comic book creators, I've talked to musicians, I've talked to actors, and I kind of just want to know, what it is that they're into. I want to know how they, were initially inspired to get into their particular field, and I just kind of want to know about their, how they got there. Like I'll talk to a writer and I'll say, what was it about writing that got you inspired to become a writer in the first place? Or when I talk to an artist, what was it that got you inspired to become an artist in the first place? So it kind of just goes that way. And with like I said, with Fueled by Weird, I just like to talk to people and just like to know their why, just kind of get to know them. I like to be kind of personable and just kind of get to know who a person is. And like I said, there's a lot of comic book creators that aren't a part of Marvel or DC or the big two, and they've got some incredible stories that they want to tell. They just don't have the resources like the people at Marvel and DC have. So I want to try to help. I don't have a very big platform, but I want to try and help them as much as I can, and just kind of let people know that, hey, there are other great comic books out there other than just, Superman and Batman or the Avengers. There's other great people out there making comic books, so you should check them out. Yes, sir.
You mentioned several of the opportunities you've gotten to talk to actors and comic book creators and things like that. How do you go about making those initial contacts? How did you end up being able to interview Kevin Smith?
Well, that wasn't all me. I had the editor-in-chief of the website. He was actually able to help reach out and make that connection. So that's kind of a cool benefit of being part of the Geek Network podcast syndicate. There's a lot of opportunities that come through to talk to people. And a matter of fact, there are so many that come through, we don't have the people to field all of the requests. So we actually, with Kevin Smith, we had a really good relationship with Dark Horse Comics. And when he was coming out with his new series through Dark Horse Comics, they reached out to see if there's anyone that would be interested in talking to him. So, of course, I said, yes, please. I will rearrange my schedule. I will take time off of work to do whatever I need to do to be able to talk to him. And, so as much as I wish this was my day job or my full-time gig, I just do this after work on the weekends. It's just something fun I like to do. But yeah, that's the biggest one. I'm friends with a lot of creators on Facebook that, I'll reach out to and make connections. But for the big connections I've been lucky to have, that's not been me. That's been help with some other people. So yeah. Anybody else have any other questions? Yes, sir.
Do you have any basic, just technical recording, tips or tricks or advice or anything that just helps improve the quality a little bit?
That is something I'm actually still trying to learn myself. I had a really great editor at one point who was incredible at editing. He actually is still pretty great at editing. So yeah, let's start there. But yeah, really how I've learned it was, just going to Google and actually to YouTube. YouTube's a lot more specific. So if there's something specific that you want to learn, one cool trick that I learned that maybe kind of a basic to some people was, when your show starts, you've got your music that kind of just slowly fades out into when you start talking, or at the end of the show where you kind of got your music in the background behind you and then it gets louder as you kind of go out. That was kind of tricky. I didn't know how to do that, but I really wanted to learn how. So, I kind of just played around on YouTube a little bit. I found out how to do that. And it kind of just goes through step by step and shows you exactly how to get that. And then once you're there, it makes it a lot easier. So yeah, YouTube was my friend. So I'm not a great editor. I can edit good enough to get what I need. So that's the biggest thing, is if there's something particular. So long story short, I don't have any specific tips or tricks because that's something I'm still learning myself. But if there is, the best way to kind of learn what you want to know is just listen to all sorts of podcasts. Like myself, I've got comedy podcasts that I listen to. I've got scripted podcasts, unscripted podcasts, interviews that I listen to, just to kind of get a difference of all the different things. And if I'll hear something that, if I want to get better at my interviewing skills, I'll listen to this particular podcaster who I think is a great interviewer. Or if I want to listen to silly things, I have a particular podcast that is a comedy podcast that takes place in a fictional land. And I'll listen to that and just kind of get some ideas from there just to kind of change things up. But yeah, if there's something that you hear that you want to learn how to do, YouTube is a good tool. Yes, sir.
What was the one podcast where you're like, okay, this is what I want to do?
It's...
I mean, of course, there's a whole lot of them out there.
Yeah.
Is there one in specific that you're just like, I have to listen to whenever they come out?
Oh, so you're asking, is there a particular podcast that I jump to the front of the line when I'm listening? My Brother and Me. If you've never heard of that one, it's three brothers who do a quote-unquote advice show. They don't do very good advice, but that's why it's so funny. That's one of my favorite ones. And the reason they started that show was because they were really close, but then they kind of all spread out and moved away from each other, but they still wanted to stay close to each other. So once a week, they just found a reason to get online with each other and have a phone call. Actually, there's another podcast that the very first podcast I was ever a part of, we did kind of the same thing. The five of us, I can't remember. I'm only asking because the gentleman in the audience was my editor that I'm talking about earlier. All right, there. Hey, Ryan. Hi, Ryan.
You, me, Pete,
Ken and Adam. Yeah.
Right.
So it was the five of us, every time we'd go out to do something together, and most of those guys.
Yeah.
We'd get together and we would just talk for hours. I remember specifically, yes, my wife's very familiar with that. Especially with, yes. The two times in particular were the Green Lantern movie and Captain America. So I think after the Green Lantern movie, we talked outside for so long, Edward shut all the lights off. And then we still kept talking after that. So we kind of decided, instead of talking around outside, why don't we all get on a phone call, once a week or once every couple weeks, and let's record it, because we thought we were pretty funny. We had a lot of weird random stuff to say, so maybe someone else will want to listen. And not a lot of people wanted to listen. All of a sudden lately, people wanted to listen more. But really, the best part is, it's got to be something that you like doing. Because if it's not something you like doing, or even a topic you're interested in, it's going to be really hard to do it. But if it becomes more work than fun, that's when it becomes the issue. So as long as it stays fun, it's going to be an enjoyable thing.